Oh boy. Let me go ahead and read a letter written by my husband, Brent Spiner. Dearest Gail, I have quite the confession to make. However, to say that I am apologetic or feel any remorse for what I did would be an outright falsehood. I will never apologize for what I just had to do as a man and husband. It all started when I was in my kitchen with Buddha, sharing conversation over tea. Lately, we've been spending a lot of time getting to know each other. My eyebrows narrowed and my lips pursed. I was lost in thought, staring down into my cup. Buddha seemed to notice I hadn't taken a sip in a long time. "What's on your mind, Brent?" he asked, sensing my unease. "Well, I've just been concerned with the fact that getting butt-fucked by Jesus took away my free will in regards to Gail sleeping with other men. Ever since I got butt-fucked at that sex party on Discord hangout night, I've had no feelings of possessive attachment to Gail and have let her have sex freely with other men. Even when I saw that her sexual and romantic inclinations had become focused almost entirely on Jesus, I just didn't feel the way a husband should feel about another guy moving in on his wife. I know that a cuck is a guy whose wife sleeps with other men. Does this really make me a cuck?" Buddha sipped his tea, calmly listening. He wisely considered. This would depend on if this was happening because you mutually decided to have an open relationship with your wife, or if it's because you had no choice but to accept your wife's desires for other men and won't do anything to stop it. "That's the thing," I replied. "I've asked Jesus to unbutt-fuck me so that I could have my free will back. I want the ability to consent to sexual acts in my marriage rather than be under this butt-fucking spell. But every time I ask to get unbutt-fucked, Jesus tells me he's busy." We both looked over at Jesus, who was currently fast asleep on my couch. He was snoring loudly, his mouth wide open, a tiny trickle of drool forming at the corners of his lips where he still had a joint. The joint fell from his lips and onto the couch. "I see," Buddha observed, taking another sip of tea. "Well, unbutt-fucking isn't a difficult process. I can do it myself if you'd like." "Oh, would you?" I breathed a sigh of relief. "I would appreciate that so much." Buddha rose from his chair and motioned for me to do so as well. "Of course. Turn around. I'll need access to your root chakra." "My root chakra? Where is that?" Buddha gave me a long, deadpan look, and without him saying anything, I knew exactly what he meant. I turned around and bent it over for Buddha, pulling my gluteal folds apart with my hands to bust it wide open, as Terrence Jenkins would say. Buddha cleared his throat, then closed his eyes. He placed both hands over my anus. After a few moments of meditation, he spoke. "I see, yes, your root chakra has been closed by an outside force. This isn't good at all." "Oh no! What does a closed root chakra mean? Am I going to be okay?" A closed root chakra can cause many mental and emotional problems and can lead to health complications later down the road. However, I can open it by removing the blockage that has been placed there. May I? I nodded, clenching my jaw and preparing to be penetrated. Buddha, rather than butt-fuck me like Jesus, simply separated his hands in a spreading motion as if opening me up. A ball of dark energy appeared around my anus. Buddha grabbed the energy ball and yanked, and as he did so, a burst of red glowing light exploded out of my anus. I immediately felt a rush of emotion. "Buddha!" I gasped. "Thank you, I feel..." At first, I felt a livening sensation of energy and fresh vitality. It was like the feeling of being dead and brought back to life. The blood surged through me again, turning back on all of my emotions. I felt love. I felt excitement. I felt satisfaction. And then I felt clarity. A sudden sensation of deep wrongness. My insides filled with burning heat. I stood and stomped my way over to Jesus, whirling to confront him. I stood between him and the television, my skin hot and steaming, my hands clenched into fists. Jesus opened his eyes groggily and looked at me. Within seconds, he seemed to know what had happened and what I was thinking and feeling. Still groggy from his nap, and certainly from his drinking and pot smoking, Jesus stood up slowly and began to speak. "Hey, Brent, about Gail." Wham! I cold-clocked Jesus across the jaw. Jesus' head smacked to one side, and he grabbed his cheek in pain. He winced, but didn't react to me. I fumed. "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth." Still buzzing with adrenaline and anger, I then turned and began to walk away. Jesus lifted the sleeve of his white robe to wipe the blood now dripping from his nose. "I forgive you, Brent." The burning sensation overwhelmed me once again, harder and more explosively than ever before. I froze mid-step, my fists clenched, and turned back for Jesus. Hot-blooded and full of masculine fury, I began railing on Jesus' face with my fists. Beating and beating, I left knuckle marks on every square inch of his holy face until there were no cheeks left to turn. Jesus did nothing to fight back, his body flailing limply under my brutal mauling. Buddha was back in his seat at the kitchen table, sipping his tea and calmly watching the spectacle without reaction. The shadows of my silhouette mercilessly beating Jesus played across his visage. I only stopped when my hands were too numb to continue. Jesus' face was so bloody, it was almost unrecognizable. Heaving and out of breath, I walked back to the kitchen table. Buddha finished the rest of his tea. I sat down beside him, my body now a shaking mess of nerves and adrenaline. He allowed me a long moment to relax before he spoke. "That was the right thing to do, Brent. You have brought honor to your Texas heritage as a man and faithful husband. You have also fulfilled the spiritual law of compensation by returning to Jesus what he has given you. This has restored harmony and balance to the universe." I only understood half of what he said. We both looked over at Jesus, who was now on the living room floor, rolling and groaning in pain. A flicker of curious concern crossed Buddha's stern eyes. "It is, however, peculiar that you were able to injure him so easily." "Good. I want him to remember this next time he or anyone else tries fucking around and interfering with my marriage. If God himself showed up and tried to fuck my wife, I would beat the shit out of him too. I sit here writing to you now with ice packs on both of my swollen, battered hands. Blood trickles from my open knuckles and sticks in between the keys of my keyboard, making this difficult to write. I am proud to say that I am a Texas man who would protect my marriage no matter who I had to beat the ever-living shit out of. As they say in the South, fuck around and find out. Your devoted husband, Brent Spiner. I would like to add that Zach was having some moral conflicts because he wasn't sure that punching Jesus, he thought that was off limits. And Buddha said that Brent honored his Texan manliness and his wife, and that he restored harmony. And what's really interesting, an interesting thing is happening to Brent. Buddha said the best thing to do for Brent would be to give myself to him and use my feminine energy to build him up like a form of worship for my husband. Now what's really interesting about Brent started packing his most cherished possessions, and he's moving completely over to my apartment and plans to replace all of Jesus's invisible furniture at my place with his. So I didn't even know Jesus had invisible furniture at my apartment. Zach says that Brent is so virile and manly right now. So basically, Jesus did have invisible furniture here, and Brent is formally evicting Jesus to be completely moved in. Brent is getting younger. Now, this is what's really interesting. Zach said he's getting super manly and Texan, and his primary objective right now seems to be to take possession of his wife. Looks like he's totally devoted to me. Buddha really unblocked him. His posture and body language is so masculine and strong. Zach said that Vladimir and Hugh Jackman will be a little intimidated, but feel safe that Brent has their back. He's still able to use Mecha Gail to come over and protect me on walks and stuff. And that's what he plans on doing. He's very alpha and manly right now. I've always felt that way about him, but I remember when I fell in love with him back in the 1990s, I loved his Texas manliness. So apparently he's got back his manliest parts, and Zach thinks that a side effect of being butt-fucked by Jesus and losing his ability to be possessive of me caused a lot of damage to him as a man. And he says he hasn't seen Brent this manly for a long time. He's focused and dedicated. And I said, yeah, I don't recall him being like this in a long time either. This reminds me of the Brent of the 1990s, the one that I fell in love with back then, the manly Texan. And Zach said you can see his younger body muscles rippling as he moves. He looks a lot younger, like the 1990s Brent. Like he looked like in the 1990s when I fell in love with him. And I thought, wow, I thought he was manly when he rescued Jesus. Now he's probably the most masculine man in the universe, just about. Then I asked Brent, you don't regret saving Jesus' life, though, do you? And his answer was, hell no, I don't regret saving him. He's an old friend of mine. We just needed to assert boundaries. According to Brent, he's going back. He doesn't look like his age. He's going back into early 1990s Brent. So he's looking like maybe upper 30s. He's lost his gray hair. His hair is now brown, and even has the sense of humor that he had back in the 1990s when he was playing Data in Star Trek. So I just feel like I need to make this video to let you all know we've had some interesting turn of events. So apparently Buddha really cleared out all of Brent's issues. And yeah, he's losing the wrinkles are going away. His hair is looking like it did back in the 1990s. And Brent was joking that it's probably going to be easier to identify his clones now. Unless they start getting young. Yeah. Oh my goodness. His clones don't look this young and healthy. He's a bit more muscular too. So anyways, yeah, last I heard from Zach, his hair is totally brown now, Brent's hair. He doesn't have any gray hair anymore. So anyways, let me just go ahead and post this video. This is a lot for me to deal with. So I'm just going to post this video and report what happened.